Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for World Cup Fantasy content, and it is time for the final tier list video of the tournament. It's match day 7, it's almost upon us, the final match day before this is all complete and we can all go back to playing Fantasy Premier League. But for now, guys, if you have enjoyed the tier list videos during the World Cup, please do leave a like. This will be the last one I do for 4 years on World Cup content, and if you don't mind subscribing as well, if you haven't done already, that would be amazing. But let's have a look at this tier list. So we've got 4 teams to pick from this match day, because obviously this match day includes both the final and the third place playoff, which takes place on Saturday. We're going to put them on these categories: must-haves, great options, optionals, mares, and avoid. We're going to start off with France. We're going to go through some of the other teams, and then we're going to finish off with some goalkeepers as well. But like I say, let's start off with France. So for France, the first player I'm going to put in immediately is Theo Hernandez in the must-have category. We've seen once again that in terms of defenders, Theo Hernandez really is just a super attacking left back who's always in those dangerous positions, which is why we see him getting goals and assists. And I really cannot see myself without this player. I'm sure you guys will probably agree that you've pretty much got to have Theo Hernandez going into this final. The final is possibly going to be a fairly low scoring game as well, so there could be some opportunities for some clean sheets with the final contestants. So I wonder if that's something that needs to factor in a little bit. Let's go through some other defenders here as well. So I'm going to put Konate first of all in avoid for now, just because I'm not sure if he's going to start or not. I think Upamecano has got a good chance of starting in this game. It's going to be between those two players taking that second centre-back position, I guess. In terms of other centre-backs, I think Varane is going to be there or thereabouts as well. You know, we expect him to start, but will he be able to get some goals? Possibly. You know, often these big games are settled by a set piece or something like that, and Varane is very much a target man from those set pieces for France. So that's going to be really important. He's always, you know, the player that the corner takers, the free kick takers seem to be aiming at Varane when they take them for France. So I think he's actually a really good option. And once again, a decent chance for a clean sheet for France. I'd say that out of the 4 teams remaining in the competition, France have probably got the best chance of a clean sheet of any of the 4 teams. So if you want to go in defence, maybe France is your way of doing that. We're going to put Koundé in optional as well. I don't think he's quite as good as Varane, but Koundé on that right-hand side, he is nowhere near as advanced as Theo Hernandez. He really does kind of drop it as more of a right centre-back in those attacking plays for France. And we can probably imagine that France are going to be a little more reserved in this game as well. A little bit more pragmatic, kind of maybe similar to how we saw them play in the second half against Morocco. Just trying to keep things cool, keep things calm, not overcommit to attack. And maybe we'll see a good defensive performance from them. So yeah, in general, the defenders are rated fairly highly, I would say. Now on to Tchouaméni. I'm going to put him probably in the avoid category as well. I expect him to start, but will he get a goal like he did against England again? I'm not sure. I wouldn't expect too many goals and stuff for Tchouaméni in this game. And in general, I don't think there's going to be too many goals in this game anyway. You know, World Cup finals are never goal fests, or usually not goal fests, should I say. Often it's the case that these games will just go 0-0 even into extra time before we get anything going on particularly, or maybe like low scoring 1-1, 1-0. These are kind of the scores that we typically expect in a World Cup final. So we are going to include some more attacking players from France though. I've got Rabiot. I'm going to put him in optional. I think actually of the France attackers, he is one of the better ones to go for. We saw when Rabiot has been playing, he has been playing really attacking football, creating for his teammates as well, making tackles, making key passes, and taking shots on, and kind of doing everything we like from those midfielders that can maybe get us some points. He has unfortunately been ill with a cold for the last couple of match days, but we are expecting him to be ready for the World Cup final. So definitely one to keep an eye on, but I am expecting him to play. I'm also going to put Griezmann in optional because I feel like he has been such a good player in this tournament. He's kind of been player of the tournament in many ways. So I do feel like we kind of have to consider him going into this final match day. He's going to be really key when it comes to, you know, taking those set pieces and creating for his teammates. Unfortunately, Griezmann is just not taking many shots on. He is really being the creative man in this team, and he's making tackles. I tell you what, if Griezmann was listed as a midfielder in this fantasy game, we would all be absolutely raving about him as a must-have player. But unfortunately, because he's listed as a forward, his points potential is a little bit limited, I guess. I'm going to put Giroud in next. I think he's probably going to be a great option. I don't know if he's necessarily a must-have, but I do think he is a great option. Again, when we're talking about these kind of finals decided by fine margins, you feel like a player like Giroud is potentially going to be the man to, you know, have that clinical finish in there, or get on the end of a header, or, you know, just be that man in the box where he's playing against a deep defence who can outmuscle and finish those kind of half chances. He's very much the kind of player you'd want to have in these situations. And of course, finally, Mbappe. I feel like we just have to put him in the must-have category because he's Mbappe. He's fantastic. He's playing fantastic football. No one can stop him. He really is just one of those untouchable players who is just absolutely elite. Even against Morocco, even though we didn't see goals from him necessarily, we saw 2 assists, which was really, really positive stuff. So that's how we're going to rate the France players, aside from the goalkeeper, who we will come to later. Let's fill in the gaps with some Argentina players. And I might move players around a little bit as we go on because I'm very cautious that I might be putting too many players in optional and not enough players in meh. I want to put some players in there. So let's start off with Molina. I think, annoyingly, I'm going to probably put him in... I'm going to put him in meh. He's going to be my first meh. Just because I think Argentina have not got as high a chance of a clean sheet as France do, just because of the attackers that France have in their team. And one thing I should note on France and Giroud, I forgot to mention this, on Giroud, there is a chance that Benzema comes back for this match day. The chances of that happening are really, really low. But, you know, people have spoken about Benzema potentially coming back for the final. Let's see, I guess, but I wouldn't count on it. But yeah, Molina, in this Argentina system, the left back is usually playing slightly more advanced than the right back. I would like Molina. If we find out that Argentina are playing with a 5 at the back formation, I would very much be more keen to go for Molina. But as of right now, if Argentina are going to play with a 4 at the back, they're probably not going to commit too many men forward. Again, it's usually the left back that's more advanced than the right back. I know Molina for club football is quite attacking, but unless he's playing as a right wing back, we're probably not going to see him too far up the pitch too often. So that's something to consider. Acuna slightly higher just because he has maybe... In fact, maybe we move Acuna up into optional. There's not too much in between these two players. But Acuna, he is the main starting left back. He's fully rested because he didn't play in that last fixture due to suspension. But he's going to be back for the final. Nice and cheap at 4.5 million. And like I say, that left-hand side for Argentina seems to be a little bit more advanced. So maybe there's a slightly higher chance of an attacking return, which is possibility for sure. You know what? I feel bad for Molina. Let's move him up. But I think I'm going to move some players into meh soon. I think so. Otamendi, let's also put him in. I guess we kind of have to group all of these Argentina defenders together. It's about which one is your favourite. I guess one thing I like about Otamendi is that he has got that set-piece threat. Maybe scoring some goals from set pieces. So maybe that's what makes him worth considering among these players potentially. I think I would maybe go for at least one of these 3 Argentina defenders, but you certainly don't need all of them necessarily. But if you want to spread out the risk, Argentina players, they're all optional. They're all optional, but none of them are must-haves. But I have got some mess for you, so I've definitely got some mess. So first of all, let's put in Enzo Fernandez. I'm going to put him in there. I think he'll be playing pretty deep in this Argentina team. Don't expect him to score many fantasy points, to be honest. So I don't think that's looking too positive. If you're looking for the big scoring plays, it's probably not going to be him. That's not to say he's a non-option. He could still pick you up a 2-pointer, 3-pointer, maybe 4-pointer on a very, very good day, but maybe a little bit unlikely. Small chance of an attacking return, but very, very small chance. Similar with McAllister. Now, with McAllister, particularly if Di Maria comes back into this Argentina side, we're probably going to see McAllister either drop a lot deeper or maybe even not play at all. He's probably going to be one of those players who gets substituted off relatively early on in the game as well, which is not something we really like. But for someone like De Paul, I think is a little bit nicer, should play more game time, should play slightly more advanced than those other 2 midfielders, and is cheaper as well. So, you know, there's a lot of good things. Maybe do we move to pull up to optional? Nah, let's leave him down here. I feel like there are some other midfielders that I do prefer, and I appreciate I'm not putting midfielders very high so far, but that's just kind of what we're dealing with right now. So Di Maria next, which is a really difficult one. I feel like if he starts, he has got to be the best midfield option of these 2 teams. So out of France and Argentina, if Di Maria starts, he's a great option. The question is he going to be ready to start the game? Is he going to be ready to play, 90 minutes? Probably not. Is he going to be ready to play, 60, 70, 80 minutes? If that is the case, then I think 80 minutes is probably a very good thing from Di Maria, and I think I'm hoping he'll be ready. Like, you can see that Argentina are a better side with Di Maria in it. So I'm going to say that he is a great option. I'm going to put him in there. We're going to stop putting players in optional. We're going to start mixing it up a little bit. Messi, I'm going to put in a must-have. Again, I can't really see a fantasy team that doesn't have Messi in. He's just too good, isn't he? Not just his goals. He has been scoring a lot of goals from penalties, which does help, of course. But it's those creative moments that we're getting from him. Those little moments of magic that really are doing so much for Argentina right now. And if you have any faith in Argentina beating France in this game, then you know that Messi is going to be involved. Alvarez, on the other hand, I do still feel like he is a great option, but I'm not as convinced by him as I am Giroud, just because I think this game in particular is going to be a lot more difficult for Alvarez. It's going to be, you know, the kind of counter-attacking runs or the little technical dribbles that he's able to do in previous match days against France. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for him. So it's not to say that he is a bad option, because he's definitely not. He's obviously in great form, playing very good football. He's still a great option, but would I say that he has got as high a potential in this match as he has done in previous matches? Probably not. And like I said, we're expecting this final to be fairly low scoring. So is that the direction you want to go in? That's kind of up to you. Let's move on to the third place playoff games, and I think this is where things get a little bit interesting. So first of all, I'm going to put in Sosa in the meh category. I don't think he's a must-have by any stretch of the imagination, and often we do see that the third place playoff games are high scoring. This kind of happens most years in the World Cup, because this third place playoff game is kind of a little bit of an exhibition game in many ways. Teams are tired, teams are open, teams are just looking to express themselves, and it's not as high profile a game as all of the other fixtures. In fact, it's the least important game in the entirety of the World Cup. So we often do see a lot of attacking football and teams kind of not playing within themselves as much, not playing as pragmatically, and putting on a bit more of a show, I suppose. So Sosa, what I do like about him, which is what takes him away from the avoid category and what puts him a little bit higher than some of these midfielders, is the fact that he does have a little bit of attacking nous about him. He does have that attacking potential in there. So for that reason, I think you could consider him. Now, I know a few people will be thinking, oh, Juranovic, he is actually getting more points than Sosa. And yes, that is true. He has been getting more points. Oh, well, he has got more points in total over the World Cup in fantasy points, but Sosa has been playing better. Sosa's underlying numbers have been better as well, so it makes little sense to me to spend that extra 1.5 million on a defender who is worse just because they happen to have scored more in the past. We're looking at future points really more than past points, I think. And yeah, Sosa, when I look at him and I watch him play, he has more points potential than Juranovic in my opinion, so I'm going to put him in there. Gvardiol. Let's go with Gvardiol. Maybe Croatians can help me out here. But I'm going to put him in a void just because, again, think there's going to be goals. Attacking potential from Gvardiol is not as high as Sosa or Juranovic. So, therefore, I'm going to put him all the way down here. Unfortunately, he's not going to be a player who I'd be looking to pick up. But the player I would be looking to pick up is Perisic. So Perisic is probably going to go right at the top of the great option category, and the reason for that is because he is a decent attacker with some really good attacking numbers over this tournament, playing in a game where we expect goals to be had. If we're looking for an attacking threat from Croatia, aside from their forwards, in terms of their midfielders, Perisic is number one. So he's going to be getting those extra points for goals as well if he manages to score them, gets points for tackles and key passes as well. So there's real high points potential, I feel like, with Perisic, and he's really a really good player to have. I would arguably put him in the must-have category because, again, if we're expecting goals in this game, and remember, Croatia, they're playing against Morocco. Morocco have only had a couple of days rest, and they've got some serious injury problems. I wonder if Croatia could score a few goals in this game, and if they do, who's going to be the kind of player who scores these goals? Perisic. Good chance of that happening. Again, let's talk about some other attackers from Croatia because I think they're all worth considering, really. So Modric, I'm going to put in probably high tier optional. The thing is with Modric is that his open play shots is not been good. So he's it doesn't look like he's likely to get many goals from open play, but he is on penalties and he's still creating a decent amount for his teammates. So if we are going to see potential goals in this game, Modric, a couple of assists, if Modric Croatia get a penalty, maybe it's worth having that Croatia penalty taker in your team, particularly if you've got a lot of money to spend, your budget, you're not too worried about your budget, you can spend a bit of money. Modric is definitely a player worth considering on those set pieces as well, which is very nice. Kovacic, however, is probably going to go down in the very low tier meh category, almost an avoid. He has created a little bit over the tournament, and we have seen him create a little bit in history, for Chelsea as well. He's not a great fantasy player, fantasy asset, but you never know if there's, if for somehow Croatia score 3 goals in this game, and I wouldn't be totally surprised to see a 3-2 or something like that in this game. You would say Kovacic, there's a chance of him picking up an assist or something like that. That could be pretty nice. And Kramaric, the forward. So, yeah, I feel like we really seriously need to consider Kramaric. In fact, do I prefer Kramaric to Giroud? I feel like I genuinely do. If I had to pick that third forward slot at this exact moment, who would I pick, Giroud or Kramaric? Think I'd go for Kramaric, assuming these players start, because remember guys, we're going to get early team news on the Croatia team and the Morocco team, and because it is a kind of a not a proper game in a way, we could see a bit of rotation for some of these players. So assuming Kramaric is starting, I think that could be a really, really interesting pick. Next up, we need to do Morocco. So first of all, let's put Hakimi in. The good thing about Hakimi is, although I think there's going to be goals in this game, there is some attacking potential from Hakimi as well. So I'm going to put him, I kind of feel like I want to put him in at least optional. He is a player I'm kind of keeping an eye on. Morocco have been defensively good, and even though they have had some, injury problems, they're going to have some fatigue problems, and it's a bit of a non-game, this is still a huge game for Morocco because they are making history for their own team and for African teams in general. Whereas Croatia, I would say that the occasion is not as big for Croatia. Croatia have already finished second in the World Cup. They've already finished third in the World Cup in their short history as a national team. So for Morocco, this is enormous. They're already breaking records. They might want to take it one step further. This is still going to be a very big game for them, and I don't expect too much rotation from Morocco aside from those injuries. So Hakimi, although I think there's a good chance Morocco concede, I can see Hakimi maybe getting an attack in return, maybe, on a set piece or getting very far forward up the pitch. You never know, do you? He could be really, really good there. We've got a couple of players from Morocco who I know a lot of you guys are eyeing up because they've scored fairly well. I know a lot of people still have these players in their team, but I am going to unfortunately put both Saiss and Mazraoui in the avoid section just because they are both injured. They both couldn't last, they couldn't last in that game in the semi-finals against France. They couldn't make it through the game, unfortunately. And I feel like in a third-place playoff, it's very unlikely that they will be risked, considering it's not a massively important game as the same way as the semi-final is. I don't think these players will be risked. And even if they do start, even if we find out they do start, are they going to play more than 45 minutes? Possibly not, which means 0 pointers for the pair of them. Even if they do play more than that, they're probably going to concede goals as well. So overall, I just feel like those two guys are just bad ideas. We're going to leave them in the avoid section. Ziyech, I think, is going up into the great option. Again, if we're expecting goals in this game, who is going to be providing it for Morocco? Well, Ziyech on set pieces, taking shots on, creating for his teammates, and making a few tackles as well, which I've been pretty impressed with. Ziyech has actually been picking up some tackle points as well, which is pretty nice. So, yeah, I'm going to put him in a great option. And, yeah, I know I said earlier that the midfielders I was rating kind of low, but you can see now we're starting to move some midfielders into these higher categories a little bit there, which I think is quite nice. In fact, I think I'm actually going to put Modric one higher than Hakimi there as well. So, yeah, Ziyech is going to be in there, set pieces. If you expect Morocco to get a couple of goals in this game, you probably imagine that Ziyech is going to be involved, whether he's, on a set piece or making an assist or maybe scoring himself. Either way, he's probably going to be involved. And Boufal, I'm actually going to put in here as well. I'm going to put him around the same place as Modric. In fact, I'm arguably going to put him in a great option because I feel like he's been playing very well as well. Again, getting tackle points, getting key pass points, and he's also on penalties, which I think is really, really important. So I'm actually going to put him slightly ahead of Modric, I think, and I'm going to put him in that position. I think Boufal, but the fact that he's on penalties really does help a lot. I think he's actually a decent option to go with for this final match day. A real interesting differential that not a lot of people will be thinking about. but I think could be really actually kind of good. So yeah, let's put him in there. El Nassiri, I think, is not as good as those other forwards that we've been talking about. He's still an option, though. Would I put him in great option? Not necessarily. He's definitely at least optional. So let's put him in there. He's kind of just maybe tying the line between great option and optional. The problem is he is a forward, and we've got Mbappe and Messi, who we're probably going to have in all of our teams. After that, who do we go for? Kramaric, Giroud, Alvarez, all of those guys you're probably going to say are slightly better options than Alvarez, than El Nassiri. But El Nassiri, I still think, is a good option and an interesting differential. If you want to try and be a little bit different and try something out, I kind of like El Nassiri. I think it's an interesting one. So there's the outfield players. Let's finish this video off with some goalkeepers. I'm going to start off with Bono, who I think is probably the worst goalkeeper of the 4 remaining. So I'm going to put him in. I'm going to put him all the way at the bottom of the meh category, and I'll put all of the goalkeepers at the bottom of their respective categories, just for my own, just to keep them out the way and show that they are separate in a way, because you do have to consider them completely separately from those outfield players. So we're going to put him in the meh category. Let's put Livakovic, I think, with a slightly higher chance of a clean sheet in that game, would you say, just because like Morocco are going to be so tired, and you would say that Croatia historically have been a better team as well, and Livakovic has arguably been goalkeeper of the tournament, at least one of the goalkeepers of the tournament. And you'd probably say the same about Bono, wouldn't you? But yeah, I'm going to put Livakovic in optional. It's tough between those two, but I think I slightly prefer Livakovic to Bono. And then after that, I'm going to put Martinez in optional in there as well, because I don't think he's quite as good as Lloris, who I would probably say is the best goalkeeping option in this game. Like I said, I do believe that France probably have the best chance of a clean sheet in this final round. I don't know what the odds are saying, and I don't know how that will turn out, because football is a crazy game, as we all know. I am backing France to play, you know, some quite defensive football within themselves. I think both Argentina and France will be playing with a certain degree of fear and kind of relying on moments of magic from the likes of Mbappe and Messi. And, you know, who knows how that's going to turn out, really. But, yeah, certainly Lloris, I feel like a decent chance of a clean sheet. But, yeah, what I would probably be doing, guys, or definitely be doing, is you need to pick one goalkeeper from the final and one goalkeeper from the third place playoff. So pick one of Lloris and Martinez. I prefer Lloris. And pick one goalkeeper out of Livakovic and Bono. And I slightly prefer Livakovic, but I have to admit, there is not much in it. In fact, I mean, arguably, could we move Bono up to the optional category, or am I overdoing it at that point? I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. I don't know. It's difficult. I just don't really fancy Morocco for a clean sheet in this game. I really don't. I don't fancy Croatia for a clean sheet in that game either. I don't fancy Martinez for a clean sheet. I don't really fancy Lloris for a clean sheet. You know, who's going to keep a clean sheet? Who knows? Who knows? It's going to be an interesting one for sure. But yeah, I think I'm reasonably happy with that. So I'm going to leave the tier list as it is right now. Hopefully you guys roughly agree. I've got most players right, but of course I'm always very, very interested to know where you would put these players. Would you put anyone higher? Would you put anyone slightly lower? Are there any other players that I haven't mentioned in this video that you think should go on this tier list, and where would you put them as well? Yeah, let me know, guys, what you think about the way where I've rated these players. Is there anything you disagree with? Is there anything you agree with? Yeah, always good to have a little bit of discussion down in the comment section. And there we have it, guys. The tier list for the World Cup Fantasy are done for the next 4 years. If you have been enjoying these videos over the World Cup, please do leave a like to show your appreciation. It is massively appreciated by me. Please do subscribe if you're new around here as well. I'm going to be doing my team selection video tomorrow. We're going to be doing a Fantasy Premier League video, finally, on Friday, maybe. I don't know. I'll do a Fantasy Premier League video at some point over the next couple of days as well. But yeah, aside from that, guys, I will see you when I see you, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.